Hey everyone, welcome back to In the Alley. My name is Cody. Glad you guys are back for another video. Sunday night football on tap for us. We have two games, one kicking off at 5:05 and one kicking off at 7:05. So just a smidge of overlap, but most importantly, you can probably watch both games in the given night. So we need to talk first about Tucson and Arizona, the Kevin Guy Bowl. Let's go take a look. All right, preview time for the Kevin Guy Bowl. The Tucson Sugar Skulls heading out to Glendale, Arizona to take on the Arizona Rattlers. The first game for both teams, 5:05 p.m. Central Time kickoff, as always on the Indoor Football Network. Subscribe till the end of March. I think it's free. I don't know how they're doing anything past that, but yeah, we cross that bridge when we get there. If you haven't signed up already, you do get some live look-ins on YouTube, but it only lasts a couple of minutes, so do your best to get on there. Let's talk about season leaders, and I do need to have a caveat here because I need to look at that injury report. Charles McCollum, he is not going to be your passing leader. Jordan Ambrose is the only quarterback on the roster. We'll touch on that in the 25-man roster. So Ambrose will be your starting quarterback for Tucson. For Arizona, it will be Dalton Sneed. He is re-signed along with Drew Powell and Larry Harrington. So again, we'll cross that bridge when we get to the 25-man roster. Rushing leaders, Devontae Sapp Lynch and Ron Brown Jr. for your respective sides, Tucson and Arizona. And then receiving yards, Brian Smith and Jamal Miles. It'll be fun to see how Tucson has adapted from this just dismal season they had last year, what they've brought in. We'll kind of see what goes on. For the injury report, Tucson has a MASH unit. Arizona has a MASH unit. A lot of injuries. They haven't even played a game. For the Sugar Skulls, Byron Jarrett on season injured reserve, Cortez Eatman on season injured reserve, and at the very bottom, Charles McCollum on season injured reserve. That's two quarterbacks on season injured reserve. Lorenzo Thompson, Darius James, and Jamias Williams all on short-term injured reserve. They're likely to come back within a couple of weeks. For the Arizona Rattlers, Shannon Brooks is on the PUP list, physically unable to perform. And then on short-term injured reserve for Arizona, Elijah Lilly, Trey Dixon, Noel Ofori Niadu, Jalen Bass, and I do not know how to pronounce his name, Hayavi Magale. There you go. And then Warren Thompson down there at the very bottom. He is on season injured reserve along with Magale. Yeah, both teams facing a lot of injuries. But for the guys on short-term, you're more likely to come back after, again, a couple of weeks. Game odds. When I pulled it, it was -8.5 for Arizona, over/under of 82.5, and money line heavily juiced to the Rattlers, -325. If you want to put a little bit of money on Tucson, it's +260, so $10 will win you 26. Other than that, that's pretty much where we're at. Speaking of where we're at, we are at the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona. Again, 5:05 p.m. kickoff on the Indoor Football League Network. And our head-to-head, 10 wins for Arizona, 2 wins for Tucson. The last meeting, week 17 of 2024, Arizona winning it 44-37. It was a pretty close game throughout, but Arizona prevailed. Let's go take a look at those rosters, our bets, predictions. We move on. Okie dokie. 25-man rosters as they appear over my face. Let's talk away side as we always do first. Jordan Ambrose, the only quarterback on the 25-man roster. Devontae Sapp Lynch, the only running back on the 25-man roster. There's been a little bit of weirdness with how they adapted it to the Indoor Football League and what they've put out. I have 6 wide receivers for Tucson with how they came through the transactions. They have, I believe it's Kevin Adams or Jerome Buckner, one of those two as a defensive back, which would give them 6 defensive backs. So either way, you have 6 wide receivers or 6 defensive backs. But for the wide receiving core, Brian Smith returns, Marlon Cook, Drew Dixon, Braden Oakley, Jerome Buckner, and Kevin Adams. On the offensive line, Cody Bullock, Dallas Raines both return. Javion Caldwell, former Sioux Falls Storm, he just got traded here from Arizona. Naimonte Ducour, and then Kirkor Kustanian. It's a fun name, but a lot of size on that offensive line. Everyone over 300 pounds, and everyone, well, minus Cody Bullock, is over 6'5", or excuse me, 6'4". So with that, and that is a lot of size on that offensive line. And even when you look at the wide receiving core, Smith and Dixon, 6'4", and then Marlon Cook, 6'2". So there is some size and some range when it comes to how they want to perceive their offense. We'll see how they do it. On defense, Diamond Brooks, John McMullen, Niles Gaddy, Trey Henry, and Jalen Stewart. Diamond, I think it's Diamond or Diamond, however you pronounce it, I am not sure. Brooks is over from last season. Everyone else, I believe, is some sort of rookie when it comes to where they didn't play last season in the Indoor Football League. Jaquez Jackson comes back for another year. And then Brian Murray, Jalen Perkins, Kendricks Gladney, Tariq Bracy, and Gabe Amigatcher for the secondary. And that is quite a bit of experience actually on that secondary. Brian Murray, Jalen Perkins, Kendricks Gladney all kind of have some sort of experience when it comes to this. And then Jaquez Jackson at the linebacker position. Kevin Macias is your kicker. He comes over from Vegas. So again, there is some experience on this roster, but with how Tucson was last season with the quarterbacks they went through like 6 or 7. They're already starting off on the wrong foot with 2 on injured reserve. So kind of have to monitor that again this season. For the Arizona Rattlers, Dalton Snead just got re-signed a week or two ago, or about a week and a half ago. Trip Harrington and Drew Powell rounded out for the quarterback room. They're carrying 3 quarterbacks. Arizona does have a little bit of history with quarterback injuries in the last few years. Ron Brown is the only running back on the roster as of right now. And then your wide receiving core, kind of thin. Jamal Miles, Isaiah Houston, Darren Wilson coming over from the Barnstormers, and Johannes Tyler round out that core. Some experience, some pretty good experience at that. But overall, that is a little thinner than Arizona normally carries. But again, you'll probably see Miles, Houston, Wilson, and Tyler all suit up. Christopher Straughter, Cordell Brewster, Michael Brown, and Q Baker round out the offensive line. Straughter coming over from Iowa, Cordell Brewster. He was with Tucson. I can't remember who else he was with. Vegas for a minute. Maybe Sioux Falls, if I'm not mistaken. He's kind of gone through the gambit of teams in this league. On the defense, Kevin Symes, Rashawn Yates, and James Nimwaya all come back on that defensive line for Arizona, so that's really good for them. Isaiah Coe is a rookie. He will most likely suit up. Linebacker, I talked about this in Arizona's preview. He got some rookies on that. Jalen Campbell and Avaya Leamatafayo. There we go. I'm sure that'll be fun for the commentators to talk about that when they do the broadcast. Devontae Merriweather, Rashi Hodge, Isaiah Huff, Omari Alexander, all re-signed in the secondary, so that bodes well for Arizona. Coming over from Frisco, Ethan Castleberry and Deontay Overstreet rounding out that defensive back core. Kicker is Dawson Evans, and he is re-signed as well. So quite a bit of Arizona talent from last year's championship team coming over to this year. They want to repeat. They're going to try and prove it. So let's go take a look at our bet, our prediction, and we'll get it to preview number 2. Okay, so the bet that I have here might be audibled. And what I mean by that is my bet for this game is under 82.5. The reason why? I think Arizona's defense is going to smother Tucson. And this is before all of the quarterback issues and dramas and all of the transactions that happened as of like last night or this morning or yesterday. Because I thought Charles McCollum was going to be the starter. I am more now inclined to pick Arizona minus 8.5. So I think either of them could be in play because I don't think Arizona is scoring 80 on their own. But I do think Arizona can put up points, and I think they will. I think that defense is going to smother Tucson, which kind of alters my prediction, which I'll get to in a sec. But that defense is pretty much returning except for their linebacker. And they had a few issues at linebacker for the Rattlers last year with Traveris Farrell and Connor Taylor kind of splitting reps partway through the season. It was like Connor Taylor for like the first half and then Traveris Farrell for like roughly the second half and then Connor Taylor through the playoffs. So it's not bad, but breaking someone in with new defensive rules, you might have less of a learning curve, but we'll just kind of see how it goes to get acclimated to the indoor game. Arizona shouldn't have any issue with that, to be brutally honest with you. On the Tucson side, we're back to square one in a sense. Not in the sense of like they're going to have a horrible season. we'll see. They do return quite a bit of talent and talent from other teams, but that quarterback spot on the road against a defense that is all but re-signed except the linebacker position, that's going to be tough. To get into game speed with new defensive rules and blitzing and stunting and twisting and just rush around the edge, that's going to be brutal for me. And I think Arizona can capitalize on that. For Tucson, they need to get the ball out quick, and Devontae Sapp-Lynch has to take some edge and some pressure off of Jordan Ambrose, and that means he has to run the ball, he has to get out in space, he has to get out in the flat to catch passes. I mean, he almost has to be a do-it-all to help get Ambrose some sort of confidence, because if Arizona smothers quickly, this game will be over quickly. Tucson's defense does seem pretty good, with returning and signing players from last season or from other teams. I do like what Tucson has been able to acquire when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. I just don't think it's enough for this one. So the reason I'm going with the under, my prediction for this game, 42-31. I do think Tucson can put up some points. I said that before the quarterback issues. I'm not necessarily inclined to think they score 31. Might be a little bit less towards 28, and it all just hinges on how quickly Arizona can figure out this offense. Arizona has had Tucson's number for years. More of the same, in my opinion. So that's what we have. Let's go check out preview number 2. All right, preview number 2. We're going 7:05 p.m. Central Time. IFL Network, as always with every game. I will say it for every preview. I don't care if it sounds like an old record. But Indoor Football League Network, subscribe. Do what you got to do. If you don't want to watch, cool, just watch these, I guess. San Antonio Gunslingers, 0-1 to start the season, a 28-20 loss at home last week to the Tulsa Oilers, traveling to Bay Area halfway across the country to take on the Panthers, and both teams look to get into the win column in this one. Let's talk season leaders, and I'll be brutally honest with you. I'm probably going to change this until we get stats put up or whatever to impact players, something like that, to kind of skirt any sort of stats just for right now. But for right now, let's talk Malik Henry and Josh Jones. Josh Jones, the former Northern Arizona Wrangler, coming over to Bay Area with Les Moss and Rod Windsor. Rob Keefe being the head coach, who was with those guys at Northern Arizona. He wasn't with Josh Jones, but all that talent coming over to Bay Area. So there's that. Malik Henry, 2 interceptions doomed him last week, but got to shake that off. He is a veteran of the indoor and arena game. He knows how to do that. So we'll see how both quarterbacks kind of play this one. Keyshawn Harper, and I put RZ McCorker here. Bay Area does not have a running back listed, a true running back. They are going with that Northern Arizona offense of last year where there is just no running back. So we'll see how that kind of performs again. I'm not a fan of it. I've never been, but yeah, they will probably make me eat my words. So I put RZ McCorker here. They did run quite a few jet sweeps last year. Kobe White, RZ McCorker, David Elder, John Maldonado, whoever it could be. They would run the ball. They would. But then Josh Jones would also use dual threat. Glenn Gibbons and Josh Tomas for the receivers. Glenn Gibbons, pretty good game, 2 touchdowns for him. And Josh Tomas returning for another season for Bay Area, looking to capitalize on what he did last season. Injury report for the Gunslingers. Not really much to report for them. Nothing new really added. For the Bay Area Panthers, Landon, I think it's Leonard, like I'm saying it like Leonard Ryan, the D2 University, but it could be Lenoir, I'm not sure. He is on season injured reserve, and then short-term injured reserve for the Panthers, EJ Anai, Dallas Holiday, Brian Horn, and Landry Mavungu. Again, short-term injured reserve, you can probably return in a couple of weeks. We'll see how that plays out for both teams. Game odds, we have an over-under of 83.5, minus 7.5 in favor of the Bay Area Panthers, and a money line pretty heavily juiced for Bay Area, minus 298. If you want to throw some money down on San Antonio, money line plus 240 can win you $24 if you bet $10. We are at the SAP Center in San Jose, California. Again, 7:05 p.m. Central Time kickoff for people here in the Central Time Zone. Otherwise, adjust accordingly. Head-to-head, they have only met one time, and that was Week 11 of last season. 42-31, Bay Area prevailed. So with that, let's go take a look at these 25-man rosters, their betting predictions. We'll get on out of here. All right, as usual, 25-man rosters popping up here, and we talk on the away side first. San Antonio, not much has changed from the last week's roster when they played Tulsa. Malik Henry most likely going to be your starting quarterback. Keyshawn Harper, probably your starting running back. Gibbons, Upshaw, Myers, your wide receivers. All four offensive linemen, I believe, were suited up last week. Maybe Burrell wasn't, but Burrell, Stallworth, Galvin, LaColby Tucker round out the offense. They got stymied, and we'll see how that goes. We'll talk bet and prediction, but they got to step it up this week. Defense for San Antonio, again, not much changes for them. Ulrich Jones, Austin Collier, Warren Thomas, and Ellison Jordan for the defensive line. Jordan Jones and Hassan Black for the linebacker position. And then your secondary, Clifton Duck, Christoph Page, Jalen Phelps, Kyle Myers, Denai Dixon, and Ravarius Rivers. We'll see if Rivers plays. He didn't suit up last week. We'll see what goes on with him, whether it was something with the UFL, whatever the case could be. We'll just kind of wait and see. They do have a new kicker, though. It's Tyler Hudel, or Heddle. Gone is the Australian Afoa, in is Hudel. I'm going to call him Hudel unless it's Heddle. Either way, we'll see what that goes as they probably need a little bit of help in the kicking. The drop kicks didn't really work for him last week. I'm not saying they would have won the game, but maybe it would have been a little bit closer. Played the game maybe a little bit different strategy-wise, but that's just where we're at. For Bay Area, Josh Jones over from Northern Arizona, and Liam Thompson from Wabash College. Your wide receiving core, quite a bit of talent from last year. Josh Tomas comes back for another year, but from Northern Arizona, Tosin Oyakonmi and RZ McCorker. Trayvon Alexander and Tyrese Chambers round out the receiving core. One of those guys will most likely be your hybrid running back lineup next to Josh Jones, kind of like David Elder did in Northern Arizona. Your offensive line, DJ Stuckey, Delvin Salter, Jamie Navarro, Sidney Walker, and Christian Coulter. Now, they did have one of these guys on the indoor football page on their social media listed, I believe, as a defensive lineman, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll kind of see how that goes. On the defensive side of the ball, they didn't have a linebacker listed, but I know BJ Tafalele did play linebacker for Frisco a couple years ago, and he did line up at linebacker when he needed to for Bay Area. But your defensive line, Jonathan Ross, Tavon Grant, Morris Joseph Jr., all re-signed for another year. William Martin comes over from Northern Arizona, and Jack Daly rounds out the defensive line. BJ Tafalele, I put as a linebacker. We'll see who does get that position, but overall, we'll just wait and see. Joe Fouché, Trey Meadows, and Tyler Watson are re-signed for another year. And say it with me again, Shamar Moreland from Northern Arizona. And they take talent from the Wranglers, man. It sucks for them. Tyrese Wright, Frankie West round out the secondary. And hey, one more time, Axel Perez is signed from Northern Arizona. So it's literally the Northern Arizona Panthers, the Bay Area Wranglers. It just doesn't stop, man. This is another season where they just kind of take it. And I know I didn't even talk about the offensive line either. There's a couple of guys on that offensive line that have either played in Northern Arizona, have come over. It's just insane. But either way, you're just mixing the best of both worlds, in my opinion. So, yeah, pretty good roster for both teams. Let's go take a look at our bet, our prediction, and see what we can gather. All right, this is a prove-it game for me, for San Antonio. My bet is -7.5 for Bay Area. I am not necessarily confident in it because I want San Antonio to prove it. They looked lackluster last week, and I have this team in the playoffs. I have Bay Area as well, but this is a game that San Antonio needs to win. I'm not saying it's a must-win, but starting 0-2 after going 0-3 last season, it just doesn't bode well. Now, again, that doesn't make or break their season, but I want to see San Antonio prove it. Prove that bet wrong. Otherwise, I win money. Now, ultimately, Bay Area returns a lot, and they get a lot from Northern Arizona. They have a very experienced coaching staff. That's not to say San Antonio doesn't. But what I've seen in one game, and I'm not trying to overreact to it, but that defense of Bay Area, if they can get after Malik Henry and make him uncomfortable, mistakes will be made. Josh Jones with a dual threat, that didn't bode well for San Antonio last week. TJ Edwards was kind of lighting it up, and they didn't have a true running back last week either. They had to have Laquivionte Gonzalez or Hassan Rogers, a depth wide receiver or a backup quarterback, and then TJ Edwards was running too. They ran jet sweeps with other players, and it didn't bode well. Yeah, they held him to 28 points, but this is a prove it. Can you get back up on that horse and go after it? So I am really curious to see how that defense and the returning players, Joe Fouché, Tyler Watson, can they shut down the wide receivers of San Antonio? San Antonio kind of abandoned the run game. I would like to see them hopefully try and stick with it a little bit before they truly abandon it, and the score might get out of hand, but I'm not sure, because we know Bay Area is going to run it. They don't have a true running back themselves, but they will do jet sweeps. Josh Jones will run it. He will do what he has to do. That wide receiving core is pretty good with Oyekonmi, McCorker, Josh Tomas. Just how I see it. So for me, I think Bay Area does take this one. My prediction for this one, 45-35. Bay Area wins it by 10. So I hope I'm wrong there. I am. I hope I am, because San Antonio needs this one. Otherwise, they are still last in the West, looking up at anyone else who has wins and losses, and they have 2. So they're already playing from behind 2 weeks into the season. It's not good. For Bay Area, you get this win, you start off on the right foot. So that's how we have it. It'll be a fun game, and I'm not saying San Antonio is desperate, but you don't want them to get to that point. So with that, 45-35, Bay Area takes it, -7.5 for the bet. Let's go wrap everything up. And that is it for the Sunday night preview. 2 games back to back. You'll see a little bit of overlap, but you'll get to watch 2 hours of the first game, a little bit of overlap, and then hopefully the final 2 hours of the second game. So with that, we still have one more left in this week. It's Monday Night Football. We'll have a preview out with that sometime tomorrow, with Vegas traveling to San Diego in a brand new arena, Front Wave Arena. We'll see the first indoor football game between the Strike Force and the Vegas Nighthawks there. But for the Sunday night games, more action. We've already seen 3 games played between 6 teams, so that's where we're just at. That's where we are at. We are just chugging along in week 2. Almost everyone has a game under their belt by now, and we still got a couple more to go. So with that, I'm going to take off here, guys. As always, love and appreciate every single one of you for taking the time to watch this. It means a lot to me. If you feel inclined, like, comment, share, subscribe, whatever you want to do. It does not matter to me. So with that, I'm going to take off here, go enjoy the rest of my night. Northern Arizona Fishers getting ready to kick off, and we just kind of go from there. So with that being said, taking off here, guys. Love you. See ya.